This is a video on Patrick Lecture 147, The Nature of Life and the Nature of Man, Week 2, which is in Facing Discrepancies in Our Beliefs. In Week 1, the topic of Your Life Does Not Lie was brought forward. That's a big deal. A lot of people need time to absorb that. The idea that we are creating our circumstances rather than being victims of them is radical. It upsets the apple cart. It changes the order in which we think things happen. It pulls out a lot of paradigms that we rely on. If I didn't want this to happen and it happened, it must be a problem. My will would have figured it out if it was wrong. It's a proof system that if it happened and I like it, then that's validation. But if it happened and I didn't like it, then it's an attack. So that's a lot to overcome. That's a lot to process. But I'm going to move on into how facing discrepancies in our beliefs is the salvation. Meaning, hurrah for discrepancies. Discrepancies are always going to occur with false beliefs. Discrepancies will never happen with truth. What does happen with truth is paradox, meaning that the truth as we understand it in our little tiny human minds may be simplistic. The way we're phrasing it and understanding it is simplistic. And therefore, when truth interrupts us, when it appears, we feel that it's a violation, it's a contradiction, it's a discrepancy. Cast back in history to when people thought that the earth moved around the sun, the sun moved around the earth. And when scientists began to say, no, it's the other way around, and there's more movement and more movement, we see things the way we believe they are. That's why our life does not lie. It encourages us in our false beliefs. But the false beliefs inevitably do not work. The everything moves around the earth thing just can't work once we develop the equipment to notice the actual movement of planets and stars. As we develop, I'm a fan of the space telescopes. And as we expand and get more telescopes, all our theories just fall over like dominoes. I really feel sorry for the astrophysicists who have to wake up in the morning and saying, what truth do I have to integrate today? Where I have to throw away everything I've worked on for years on end. That does happen. That's not a discrepancy. Discrepancy is what tells us that our formulas aren't working. Discrepancy tells us that the idea we have is not complete, or it's not the perspective isn't large enough. So hurrah for discrepancies. In false beliefs, misconceptions, and distortions, that I always acronym into FBMDs just to make it easier to write in the notes, there will always be a trail of breadcrumbs. That's what I'm calling these discrepancies. There will always be a trail of breadcrumbs. What will they look like? They will look like a sense of discomfort and unease. They will look like emotional reaction, where we explode, where we're triggered, where we are struggling with something. Now, if we're struggling with truth, it's because we're holding an untruth. If we're struggling with untruth, it's because we know it's untrue. We may not know why or how, it's not true. So an emotional reaction of any kind is a tell. Now, tell is a term from playing poker, people who play poker, where professional poker players learn the tells of their opponents. And they can be extremely subtle and take years and years of observation and practice. So does self-analysis like this. So does finding these discrepancies. You've got to devote some time to it. So an emotional reaction can be extremely small. It can just be it can feel like a twitch or a pulling back. It's up to you what level you want to work at. Intellectually, judgments can be a tell. It can be a sign that there's a discrepancy, where you slap down something with a judgment. You use an external validation to shove something out of the way or discredit it. Personally, one of our judgments is the word should. Now, should is a clear indication that there is an idealized self-image or a supraconscious ego at play. There's some part of us that wants a different set of rules to apply. And so we're going to go out there and say should when we're not fully aligned with that, because if we were fully aligned, we'd be doing that. So it's not a matter of that goes against my belief system and my morals, and I'm going to have to address it. It's a feeling of dis-ease where it should work this way, or I should be this way, and I'm not meeting standards. The standards are not us yet. And it's important to be very careful here because you can have a great model for these standards, but they're still not yours, at least not yet. There's a sense of getting lost, of being disconnected. It's an emotional reaction, actually, to disconnect, go numb, lose track, to become distracted. But what it feels like is of being lost. So your understanding of the story doesn't match what you're hearing, and so you can't find your place in the story. And the one that is really important to mention is that numbness is an emotional reaction. It's something we do to erase the truth, to erase the discrepancy. We don't know how to process it. We don't understand it. We think it means more than it does, so we simply won't feel it. So we go into a state of numbness. To become aware that we are numb means we're not completely numb. So it's actually a boundary marker to not being completely numb. It's important. And in the process, you may be pausing at that place or slowing down at that place of crossing that boundary. I'm thinking of the event horizon black hole boundary thing, or the edge of space, or the edge of the solar system, or the edge of the Earth's atmosphere. It's not a hard mark, but there's a difference between being in the Earth's atmosphere and outside it. There's even I'm going to get a little nerdy here. We've discovered, because of the Voyager spaceships, we have discovered the boundary between our solar system and outer space. And nuance, it's a very, very tiny difference. It can be measured. You have to know what you're looking for. Same thing with this kind of work. There has to be some kind of inner knowing going on, and that inner knowing is what's creating a sense of discrepancy. So you're giving yourself the clues you need. The job of the lower self. There's a positive and a negative here. Everything has a positive and a negative. Everything is inherently neutral. The lower self can't do anything without your permission. It can't do anything without your engagement. If you do not engage, it has no power. So its positive spiritual aspect is to help us by showing us where we're weak, where we're clinging to false beliefs, by activating that part of us until we start becoming aware of it and choose to not do that. That's a positive. The negative is that it fears truth. Negativity and lower self, energetic aspects, however you want to imagine them. Lower self and negativity fears truth because that's a form of death. What place do they have in a unitive system where negativity doesn't gain any advantage? So if we're headed for the unitive, if we're on a road to salvation, there's the salvation that we're looking for is death to the lower self and negativity. They're fighting for their lives. Therefore, all their arguments, all their urgencies, all their tools are aimed at preventing that death. Our unity is their death. So they've got to prevent that death. And therefore, the life-death arguments are a tell. of negativity. It's dualistic. I'm phrasing duality in a different way. It can be phrased many ways. I like to play with it and call it different things. So dualistically, the lower self will frame things in terms of life, death, good, bad, yours, mine, us, them, right, wrong, even easy and hard. Who can argue with easy versus hard? Don't we all want things to be easy? Well, does that assumes that there isn't some hard work needed to accomplish something? And that's where does that belief come from? So that belief that something is hard work actually makes it hard work, because in your life, look at the things that you do that other people say is hard work, and it's just not hard work to you. It is a pleasurable activity. So the idea of one thing is easy and the other is hard should not be the only thing you look at when you make a decision, a life decision. So it's another breadcrumb, duality. And the last is that if you are in illusion, that will have to be defended because it's not real. Illusions always have to be defended because they depend on your sustaining something that is not true, not real. And that defensiveness is another tell. It's another way you can sense that something is an illusion, is the resistance to leave it, the resistance to see another point of view. So I remember when I first started Pathwork, there were many concepts that I resisted. They didn't come all at once, luckily, because if they'd come all at once, I would have walked away. They came one at a time, slowly enough so that I could wrestle with one and work it out before the next one came at me. And it always felt personal. It always felt as if I accept that, then I don't have value. If I accept that, then where's my place? If I accept that, then that puts me behind, that leaves me behind. It's always a duality. It's always a life-death. It's always a personal threat. And I learned to take the stance of the observer self, which is chapter 3 in Susan Thasenga's book, The Undefended Self, which Susan graciously allowed me to post on my website for download. It's on additional concepts. The idea of the observer self is for you to go outside your normal persona to get objective feedback. The observer self is you, but it isn't. It's you without your investment. And that's how you can tell the observer self is it's not invested. It just says, well, why don't you look at that? Or how about we go over here and look at that, and then we can come back. It's a more objective aspect of you. It's the best we can do. You can't be totally objective, but you can build the ability to gain feedback from your own observational skills. I like using popular examples. So let's think in terms of detective stories and mysteries. In detective stories, the police chase a suspect and they think they have the evidence. And if they're convinced, then that's the direction they go in. And the stories are made up of someone who just feels that something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. This extra piece of evidence doesn't fit. There's no place for this piece of evidence to fit with that theory. So you may need to change the theory. And so think of this as a detective story. You're the detective, and you're also the person you're investigating. So your life does not lie. You have everything you need right in front of you, available to you, to understand your personal beliefs and shift them, change them, convert them, transform them into what you do actually believe already, but you were not able to phrase before in your less developed, less mature self. So as we grow, our beliefs change. This will not be the end of it. It will, as long as your life continues, your beliefs will change. They will develop. They will grow. Your perception will grow. again, like the space telescopes, we see things, then we see further, and it gets very complicated. And it takes time to integrate all this information and understand how it all interrelates. If you see that as threatening, then of course you won't do it. But if you see it as exciting and we can manage the flow of information that comes at us, it makes life fun. So thanks for listening. Patrick Lecture 147, The Nature of Life and the Nature of Man.